Hey guys, this is Josh with Rocky Mountain, and this is our ride review of the 2018 Can-Am Maverick Trail. For the past few years, Can-Am has really been putting a high emphasis on their side-by-side line. From the Defender to the Commander to the Maverick and the X3, they really have had a wide variety of options for people to choose from, but they haven't had a 50-inch option. So that's where the Maverick Trail comes into play. Now there are a couple things about the Maverick Trail that make it unique in the 50-inch side-by-side domain. The first is that they stretched out the wheelbase at 90.6 inches. They also give a 51 horsepower 800cc engine option, as well as a 75 horsepower 1000cc engine option. Now, along with those engine options, they also have dynamic power steering options, as well as a large catalog of accessories that you can get straight from the factory. So what we're gonna do today, we're gonna get in this thing, go rip it around, put it through its paces, and let you guys know what we think. All right guys, so now that we're in the machine, I just wanted to give you a first-hand review as we're riding it. So the first thing I wanted to really touch on is the ergonomics of the cockpit. So for reference point for you guys, I am 6'2", and so I am a little bit taller, and the cockpit is surprisingly nice. So with that longer wheelbase, they were able to stretch out the machine and give more space for taller riders. So you have an adjustable seat, you have the adjustable steering wheel, and the rider triangle, which is from your hands to your butt in the seat to your feet down at the pedals, it's stretched out a little bit, so it really is comfortable for a wider range of people. And the other thing is, with it being a 50-inch trail, there's not a lot of room in 50 inches for two people. And the surprising thing is, I was with another rider all day yesterday, and it really is quite comfortable. We weren't banging elbows or banging shoulders the whole day, and it really just created a lot of room and space just to be comfortable. And that was kind of a pleasant surprise, especially for a 50-inch. Now, the only critique I do have around the space in the cockpit is when you get the 1000, it comes with full doors, and the door on the left side, if you're the driver, it is a little bit close, so your elbow is kind of up against it, but I would definitely rather have that than be against the person next to me if I had another rider. Now, some other little things with the ergonomics of this is, I think Can-Am's done a really well job of just kind of hitting some of the fine points inside of the cockpit. And one of those points is the center console. So the center console is just the right amount of distance away from the throttle. So when you're driving around, your foot and your leg can rest up against the center console, and that makes it so it's a lot easier to have a steady throttle control as you're driving, and it just kind of makes for a smoother ride and a lot more control. And it's little things like that that I really appreciate when you're in a side-by-side. Now, another thing is the seats. Can-Am has always been really known for having comfortable seats, and the Maverick Trail is really no exception to that. The seats are comfortable, you're in a nice low position, you've got that adjustability, and we were in this thing all day yesterday as well, and it wasn't one of those situations where you can't wait to get out so you can stretch your legs. You really can go long distances with this thing and not have too much to worry about. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the power options. So you have the 800cc option as well as a 1000cc option. Now, I'm in the 1000cc right now, and I was in the 800 earlier. And for the 800, it really is just a smooth ride. The throttle is really progressive, and you really can control it quite easily. And I think the 800 is really suitable for just your average guy. You just want to be out on the trails, just have a good time. You don't need anything crazy, you don't need a ton of power, and you just want to have fun. Now, with the 1000cc, that's what I'm in right now. It's got a ton of power. So the 1000cc, you can really ride it like a sport side by side. and when you get on it, it goes. So the 1000cc is a lot more fun. It's definitely capable in the trails, and it can really lug in the low stuff and the tight technical, and you do have the low gears for that. But if you want to get onto it, it moves. So if you want to put it in two-wheel drive and float around a corner, you can totally do that in the 1000cc. Now with both of those, they have two different options. You have the DPS and the regular, and with the DPS you have an eco mode as well as a sport mode, and there is a difference between those. With the eco mode, I find it's a lot easier in the trail ride stuff like this. If it's really rocky or choppy, it kind of smooths out the power, so if you accidentally stab the throttle, you don't get a ton of power, like break loose or lose control or anything. And then the sport mode, it's exactly what it sounds like. It really just gets moving when you hit that sport mode. The next thing I want to talk about is the suspension. So Can-Am's done a really good job with making this thing really capable. So with 50 inches, you're usually worried that it's going to feel really tippy. It's going to be a little bit rougher ride because you don't have as much travel. And Can-Am has been able to get about 10 inches of travel out of their suspension for the Maverick Trail. And I do have to say, it's incredibly fun. It handles the small chop stuff like this pretty well. And you know, with the less travel, it's definitely bumpier, but it's nothing you can't manage. And the other thing is that they've also made it so you can push these things, especially with the 1000. You can get into a corner and really rip it around, and it's super predictable. It really does inspire a lot of confidence in the corners, and you can just have fun with it. When I'm riding this thing, I honestly forget that I'm in a 50-inch small side-by-side. You get in it and you just start riding it, and you just don't have to worry about that stuff. So that is something that I think a lot of people are really going to appreciate, is that whether if you're doing slow technical stuff or you're wanting to go rip out in some fast high-speed stuff, the suspension really is tailored to do all of that. Now going back to what I talked about, the small chattery stuff, the choppy, rocky stuff, kind of like we're in right now, it definitely is bumpy. And the nice thing is that even if you're really pushing it through the chatter and you're feeling all the bumps, it still feels planted. You don't feel like you're bouncing all over the place, and it really keeps the traction well. And another thing with the suspension is the breakover angle. I know that's a bigger thing that people are worried about too, because this is a little bit longer than the other trail machines that are out there. And so the clearance and the breakover angle is lower. Now, we actually haven't had any issue with that. We've been riding these things for a couple days, and I've had to purposely test out the breakover angle to try and see where it was. And so for your average stuff, it actually is pretty high. They've done a good job with creating it so it has a good clearance, even with that extra length, and you just don't have to worry about most of the rocks. Another thing they did is they angled their skid plate underneath, so it's a little bit higher in the middle than it is down on the sides. And that gives it a lot more clearance, and just kind of helps that confidence of you can get over things and you don't have to worry about getting hung up on obstacles out on the trail. Now, a couple other things regarding handling. Since it does have a wider wheelbase, some people are concerned about the turn radius. And with the turn radius, we've tested it out, and it really isn't that bad. It's still a really tight turn radius, so it's really capable on some of the tighter turns and the tight trails. And so that's not really, I don't think it's something that anyone should really be too concerned about. Now, there are a couple things I wanted to touch on really quick just before we wrap this thing up. The first is the fuel capacity. So the Maverick Trail does come with a 10-gallon fuel tank, so that gives you plenty of range if you want to do some of that longer adventure ride stuff or the long group rides, which is nice for a smaller 50-inch side-by-side like this. And then the other is the cost. So the Maverick Trail, the base 800, starts at about $11,000, and then it just goes up from there depending on if you have the DPS version or a 1000cc and all the extra options and the accessories that you can get with these. And I think that's a really good price point. I think they've really thought about that and made it really available for most riders, and I think it's really good for what you're getting. Now, whether you want to just go trail riding or you want to go out and kind of ride it like a sport machine, I think the Maverick Trail really is a great option for that. And you know, it is a bonus, it does look pretty good. They've kept the Maverick branding and the Maverick style, so you can butt this thing up next to like an X3 and it looks very similar. And so overall, I'm pretty impressed with what this machine can do and just how much fun it is to drive. So if this fits you, you need a 50-inch option, you want to be able to get on some of those tighter trails and want something that's really well versed across all the terrains, I think the Maverick Trail is going to be an awesome option for you. All right, guys, that pretty much completes our ride review of the Maverick Trail. Now, if you have any questions about the Maverick Trail or anything that we didn't address you'd like to hear, make sure and comment that below. I really think this is going to be a fun machine for anyone, whether you're trail riding or you want to have something a little bit sporty, but you want that 50-inch option. I think this really is going to be a great machine for you. And if you like to see more content like this, make sure and hit that subscribe button. And I really just want to thank you for watching.